You know that term, natural disaster? We hear it all the time, and it makes you think of these huge, powerful forces that are just completely out of our hands. But what if that's not really the whole story? In this explainer, we're going to dig into a really big question. Are natural disasters actually natural?
All right, to get to the bottom of this, we first have to tackle a really common misconception, because it turns out the way we define the word disaster pretty much changes everything.
We've all seen phrases like this one, right? Sudden, unavoidable acts of nature. It makes it sound like when a hurricane or an earthquake hits, it's just random, bad luck. But here's the thing. While the event itself, the shaking ground, the storm, might be unavoidable, modern science tells us the disaster part is a way more complicated story.
Okay, so this right here is the absolute key to understanding all of this. It's the difference between a natural hazard and a natural disaster. A hazard is just the event itself, the earthquake, the massive rainfall, the storm. That part, that is natural. But a disaster, that only happens when the hazard runs into vulnerable people and systems. So let me say that again. The hazard is natural. The disaster, well, that's on us.
So to really get how we accidentally turn these hazards into disasters, let's do a quick fire round on the natural forces we're actually dealing with.
The easiest way to think about an earthquake is to imagine the planet just letting off some steam. See, the Earth's crust is made of these massive plates that are always moving. When all that tension and stress between them builds up and finally, bam, it snaps, it releases this incredible wave of energy. And that's the shaking we feel. Floods. Yeah, they're pretty straightforward, right? It's just way too much water in a place that's normally dry. It can come from crazy amounts of rain, rivers overflowing, or a big storm surge from the ocean. It's all a natural part of the water cycle. But, as we're about to see, where that water goes and how fast it gets there makes all the difference.
Now, a tsunami is not just a big wave. No way. It's a completely different animal. It's caused by a massive jolt under the ocean, like an earthquake, that shoves the entire column of water from the seafloor all the way to the surface toward the coast. That is where it gets its absolutely terrifying destructive power.
And finally, you've got your big storms, like hurricanes. You can think of them as these giant heat engines. They literally suck up energy from warm ocean water and turn it into ferocious winds and incredible amounts of rain. And the warmer that water is, well, that's just more fuel for the fire.
Okay, so we've got these natural hazards, the shaking ground, the tons of water, the powerful wind. But why do they so often spiral into these devastating disasters? Well, this is where our own actions really enter the picture. The United Nations has a really simple but powerful way to look at this. They say that disaster risk isn't just about how strong the storm or the earthquake is. It's actually a formula. You take the hazard's power, you multiply it by our exposure, that is, how many people and buildings are in its way, and then you multiply that by our vulnerability, how well our communities can actually handle it. And you can see exactly how this works right here. An earthquake's destructive power gets amplified by things like poorly built buildings. A flood gets so much worse because we've cut down the forests that would have soaked up the rain. And a storm gets supercharged by warmer and warmer oceans.
Let's just take earthquakes for a second. Get this. Two different cities can feel the exact same level of shaking, but one is fine and the other is totally devastated. What's the difference? It comes down to things like strong, enforced building codes and having good emergency plans. The destruction, it's not a given.
And it's the exact same story with floods. Nature gave us this brilliant, built-in solution, forests and wetlands that act like giant sponges. But what do? We pave them over with concrete and asphalt. So when that heavy rain comes, the water has nowhere to go but rushing into our streets and our homes. We turn a heavy rain into a disaster.
And as for storms, the science here is just crystal clear. As climate change warms up the ocean's surface, it's like pouring high-octane fuel into a storm's engine. It doesn't just make the winds stronger. A warmer atmosphere can hold more moisture, which means when it does rain, it's way heavier and way more destructive.
So let's zoom out for a second, because it's important to realize these aren't just one-off problems. They all share some pretty deep, common root causes.
It's wild, because it doesn't matter if you're talking about an earthquake in one country or a flood in another. Scientific research keeps pointing back to these same four things that are cranking up our risk. Climate change, making weather more extreme, destroying the ecosystems that protect us, poor planning that puts people right in harm's way, and inequality that leaves the most vulnerable with the least protection.
So if you only take one thing away from all of this, let it be this.
The planet is always going to have its hazards, the storms, the floods, the earthquakes. That's a given. But the outcome, the scale of the disaster, the loss of life, the destruction, that is almost entirely determined by the choices we make.
Now, if our decisions are a huge part of the problem, guess what? That means our decisions can also be the solution. And that's what this is all about. How do we actually build a safer future?
Let's be really clear here. The goal isn't to stop a hurricane from ever forming or to prevent the ground from shaking. That's impossible. The real, achievable goal is to make ourselves less vulnerable so that when these natural events do happen, they don't become these massive human catastrophes.
And the great news is, we already have so many of the tools to do this. We're talking about things like early warning systems that give people critical time to get to safety, building smarter infrastructure that can actually withstand these events, restoring those amazing natural buffers like forests, and of course, tackling the root cause of more intense weather, climate change itself.
In the end, it all kind of boils down to this really simple but powerful idea. Disasters aren't a sign that the planet is angry with us. They're a reminder that we are a part of its incredibly complex systems. And the path to being safer isn't about trying to fight nature, but about learning how to live with it.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. A future completely free of hazards isn't possible. But a future where we've transformed these terrifying disasters into risks that we can actually manage, that is absolutely within our reach. And the power to make that happen starts with the choices we all make, starting today.